The Stockyards section in Oklahoma City. It has become an urban main street. Stay with us for these stories, and Ross will have our weather forecast. It's coming up on the Oklahoma News Report.
A 500-year-old sport still played today. Works of art that tell us who we are and what we would like to be. Travel to Florence with Bill Moyers and see how the Renaissance still affects the way we think and feel today. Our yesterdays come alive in the power of the past with Bill Moyers. Florence.
Tonight at 8.
In 1987, Tamara Oken finally received permission to leave the Soviet Union. This is the story of her journey.
I can imagine that all those years I was waiting that it would happen, and it happened. I cannot believe that I'm here. It's unbelievable. It's like in a dream.
Tonight at 9:30.
Come see the light, come see the light. OETA. Just find us now.
Hi, I'm Marty Stauffer. Be sure to watch Wild America Thursday nights at 7:30 on OETA. We'll take you on a close-up look at rarely witnessed events happening in their natural settings. It's outstanding animal photography at its best. Right here on Wild America, Thursday nights at 7:30 on OETA.
Asia Now provides an in-depth look at the current developments in this vital and complex continent. Thursday night at 6. Bringing statewide news to all of Oklahoma. This is the Oklahoma News Report.
Good evening, I'm Dick Pryor.
And I'm Mary Carlee.
Governor Bellman says he doesn't expect war in the Mideast.
The UN Security Council is expected to approve a resolution tomorrow authorizing all necessary means to get Iraq out of Kuwait. The measure calls on Iraq to release all foreign hostages, withdraw its troops, and restore the Kuwait government by January 15th or face a possible attack. Now, despite the ominous tone of the resolution, Governor Henry Bellman says he doesn't believe it means Americans will soon be at war. OETA's Catherine Bennett has our report.
Governor Henry Bellman applauds the president's leadership in uniting so many countries against Iraq. He thinks setting a deadline is a good idea, but believes Iraq will finally bow to financial, not military pressure.
I don't think we're close to war at all. I think that this is a unique case where economic sanctions are going to have an impact because Iraq's income has come from the sale of crude oil, which has now been totally stopped. And to me, it's very plain that they can't go on very long without the sanctions having a major impact.
Sergeant Tina Fellows hopes the governor's right. She's with the 245th in Midwest City, one of 3 Oklahoma Guard units that could be called up for Operation Desert Shield any day now.
We're medics, and we take care of those people who get hurt. And the sad thing is people are going to die if something does come up to a conflict. That's what I'm worried about. I don't want people to have to die.
The possibility that there could be fighting, not knowing how long they'll be gone, can be hard to handle. But Second Lieutenant Brenda James says members of her unit are keeping a positive attitude.
I really believe that the people that I've spoken to have really been positive about it. We need to stay positive. And I believe with the community support and with the people that are out here, of the 10% that are out here on alert these first few days, we're just keeping a positive attitude and saying we're going to go and do the job that we've been trained to do.
Communities across the state can play an important role as more Oklahoma men and women are called up for Operation Desert Shield. Members of the 245th are hoping for community help in organizing a parade for a send-off. And of course, donations of food and other snacks would be appreciated as they prepare for the call-up. And once they're gone, they say cards and letters would be wonderful. They seem like small things, but they'll go a long way in keeping morale high, and that's very important for them in the face of so much uncertainty. At the 245th in Midwest City, Catherine Bennett, Oklahoma News Report.
Thanks, Catherine. The 701st Personnel Service Company of Ada has been activated in support of Operation Desert Shield. Military officials say the U.S. Army Forces Command chose the 701st based on the needs of the Army. The 701st is made up of more than 100 soldiers whose mission is to perform adjutant general functions for replacement personnel. Those duties include checking soldiers' personnel, medical, and financial records. The 701st will be mobilized at Fort Sill Army Post. It's one of 75 units under the command of the 122nd Army Reserve Command. Officials say it's the 5th unit to be activated in the 122nd's tri-state area of Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana.
Student soldiers are having to give up textbooks and grades for the desert sands of Saudi Arabia. Many students join the military to help pay for college, but now that plan is not working. OETA's Karen Wicker tells us the recent withdrawal of students is creating confusion on some college campuses.
OSU sophomore Johnny Clark is checking on his college transcript. He's a member of the Air National Guard and could be called to duty in the Middle East. Like many other student soldiers, Johnny will have to give up this semester's grades if he goes.
Yes, that is something that we knew could possibly happen. And it's just one of the chances that you take.
16 students have withdrawn from Oklahoma State University for Operation Desert Shield, and many others are taking an incomplete grade until they can return and finish. But not all colleges and universities have the same policy. According to State Senator Bernice Shedrick, some schools are giving student soldiers a break by giving them the grade they have at the time they're called to action.
We should have a uniform policy statewide. And two, I believe that our colleges and universities certainly need to be sensitive to the needs of these young men and their families. And third, I do believe they're entitled to take whatever grade is there at this point in time without being unduly burdened and worried about having to take a test later or merely not give them credit at all.
Most students have more than 3 weeks left before the semester is over, and some say giving soldiers special treatment just isn't fair.
Material that you get in one course is prerequisite. You need that basis to advance on into the higher level courses, and if you don't get a good foundation in the lower level course, then you'd have problem in the higher level course.
But students on campus feel sympathetic with their peers and wouldn't want to trade places.
They almost completed the semester and they're going to fight for us, so I think that's fine. It doesn't bother me at all.
Some of them, when they joined up, didn't know that this was going to happen.
About 80 more students across the state are expected to be called up this week. About the same time, other students will just begin studying for finals. Reporting from Stillwater, I'm Karen Wicker for the Oklahoma News Report.
The State Regents for Higher Education is examining the student-soldier crisis and the issue new military school leave guidelines later this week.
Veteran State Senator Gene Stipe is free on his own recognizance today after being arrested in Tulsa on a complaint of driving under the influence of alcohol. Officers say Stipe was involved in a non-injury auto accident last night. Oklahoma Highway Patrol Lieutenant Mike Grimes says Stipe's blood alcohol level was .12. The legal limit is .1. The Highway Patrol says Stipe crashed his auto on Interstate 44 just before midnight. His car allegedly ran into a car driven by a Tulsa woman. Her car was damaged, but she wasn't injured. Stipe is a McAllister Democrat. He's been in the state legislature since 1949.
New radar now scanning Oklahoma skies should make air travel safer. The FAA dedicated the new radar, which is based at the Tulsa airport. The $5 million improvement will track aircraft across northeastern Oklahoma.
Metro wants the right side. Can I follow America?
It's just an upgrade of the radar facilities, enable the controllers to see the aircraft and weather simultaneously and just be able to handle traffic in a more safe manner.
The radar will help control aircraft over 47 airports in 3 states. It's part of a nationwide upgrade of the radar network, and it's the first of its kind here in Oklahoma.
Congress has passed a new federal clean air law, and Oklahoma businesses will be affected. Some will have to make expensive changes in their operations. OETA's Jack Frank reports business owners are scrambling to meet the clean air law guidelines.
Dry cleaning can put harmful solvents into the air. That's why laundries are among the businesses under heat to make changes. Dry cleaners that haven't already done so will be forced to add machines that don't release solvents into the air. The machines are expensive. The cost will be passed to consumers.
It's back to there is no free lunch. It'll all have to be passed on. Fortunately, some of it is labor-saving devices that we can not have to pass those costs along, but there's some capital investments involved.
Body shops are also targeted by the Clean Air Bill. This shop has converted to spray equipment that does not use solvents. All body shops will eventually need similar equipment. The cost will be high.
They can run from $80,000 to $200,000 investment to keep up with compliance.
Hundreds of Oklahoma business owners attended this meeting in Tulsa to learn how the Clean Air Bill impacts them and how to comply.
It's going to really affect almost any business that has an emission of air pollution, and it will affect a number of businesses that have never been affected before by Clean Air Act or air pollution control.
It will take several years to bring all the companies into compliance with the Clean Air Law, and the health department says enforcement will be a major headache. In Tulsa, I'm Jack Frank, Oklahoma News Report.
Thanks, Jack. The State Equalization Board heard today that counties are showing excellent compliance with standards for assessing properties for ad valorem taxes. Now, State Finance Director Lex Holmes told the board that only 6 counties are out of compliance with the 11 to 14% assessment ratio requirement. Only 2 of them far out of compliance, and that only an additional 6 failed to meet the limits on variation in ratio between classes of property. Governor Bellman says it's a great improvement to see only 6 counties out of compliance on assessment ratios when 50 or more used to be. He commended the county assessors and the tax commission for the job they've done. There's a more recent requirement in the law which most counties did not meet, but a tax commission representative says it is almost impossible to meet without computerization. The 13 counties in the state with computerized assessors' offices are in compliance with that agreement.
Governor Bellman says there is merit in making the office of state treasurer appointive, but he agrees with those who say there are other state offices which should be changed to appointive if the treasurer's office is to be changed. Newly elected State Senator Kevin Easley of Tulsa supports making the treasurer's office appointive, but Republican State Chairman Clinton Key says if Easley is going to be consistent, he should also support making such offices as Labor Commissioner and Superintendent of Public Instruction appointive.
A private financial report says 4 Oklahoma savings and loans were technically insolvent in the second quarter of this fiscal year, according to Veribank Incorporated of Wakefield, Massachusetts. The S&Ls are American Federal in Ada, First Federal in Chickasha, Clinton Savings, and Globe Savings in El Reno. 12 others do not meet all regulatory guidelines.
Norman police say they have served a search warrant in a 20-year-old murder case. Lieutenant Leonard Judy says the warrant was served November 21st at the DeSoto, Texas home of Frank Gilley, who was a Norman police officer. Officials say he's been a suspect all along in the 1970 murder of David Sloan and Cheryl Benham. Both were students at the University of Oklahoma. They were found dead in the trunk of Sloan's car on Lovers Lane in West Norman. Each had been shot at least 10 times with a .22 caliber weapon. Judy says officers confiscated 6 .22 caliber handguns, and they also found an illegal sawed-off high-powered rifle. Gilley was arrested on the gun complaint and remained in the Dallas County Jail today in lieu of $200,000 bond. A bond reduction hearing is set for Friday.
A hard freeze covered portions of Oklahoma last night. It should cover the entire state by early tomorrow morning. I'll have all the details on the weather later in this evening's newscast.
William Buckley's Firing Line, Adam Smith's Money World, Tony Brown's Journal, Jim Hart's Asia Now, OETA Capital Press Report, and the McLaughlin Group. It's just what you need for a week of business and public affairs updates, Monday through Friday night at 6.
Come see the picture too.
Just watch us now. TV worth watching means our shows reflect on you.
Come see the light. Come see the light. OETA.
Just watch us now.
The Main Street program, run by the National Trust for Historic Preservation, is an effort to preserve and revitalize historic downtown areas. Until now, it's been used mostly by small towns in Oklahoma. But soon, Oklahoma City might have the first urban Main Street designation in the state. OETA's Charles Newcomb reports.
The National Stockyards is technically not a part of Oklahoma City, but the area that surrounds the intersection of Agnew and Exchange is, though it operates more like a small town.
Yeah, what we're finding when we work with urban programs around the country is that many of the commercial neighborhoods like this function very much like a small town. They just happen to be incorporated within the city limits of a much larger community. But as far as the way the community functions, the adjacent neighborhoods, the retail and so forth, it functions very much like a small town.
Linda Harper and Kathleen Kelly, both representatives of the National Main Street program, plan to spend most of the week in the Stockyards area, assessing its potential for becoming a Main Street area.
We've been working with urban programs for a number of years now all over the country, but it'll be the first urban area in Oklahoma. We've had a number of programs. I've been working with the Oklahoma program for 4 years now, and we're all over the state, a number of programs throughout the state. But this will be the first urban program in Oklahoma.
They spent Tuesday on a walking tour of Stockyards City, examining the architecture and talking with the people who have recently moved businesses here.
We get a lot of people in town for the cattle auctions and things like that. And they come in and they'll see our sign, and then a few months later they'll come back and say, we saw you when we were in town.
And those who have been here for quite a while.
This was the old bank, and they had a hotel above it. Every building out here had a hotel. So see, they used to bring in their cattle individually, and then they'd stay overnight to collect their money. Even when I first started, came out here in 51. Well, I came out in 51, and they were bringing their cattle in that way then. Because we had a drought in about 1955, and cattle were lined up to 29th Street, which would be 16 blocks.
While the Stockyards itself continues to do business, the area surrounding it has seen a decline in the past few years. Business owners are ready to turn it around if they can.
We'd like to see it revitalize the area and give it an identity that really it has had historically but never been promoted properly.
They're hoping to capitalize on the growing trend of historic tourism.
But if there is a place within the city to really capture that and to sell it to a market, whether it's a local market or whether it's an international market, I think it's probably going to be right here in the Stockyard City area.
Charles Newcomb, Oklahoma News Report.
An Oklahoma state senator is beginning a drive to limit the terms members of Congress can serve from Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma was the first state in the union to limit the terms of state legislators, and Doug Schimel of KFOR tells us now a state senator is targeting U.S. senators and congressmen.
We do want to try to stay here.
A politician in office tends to remain in office according to the laws of political physics. So when Oklahomans opted to keep state lawmakers on a short 12-year leash, the next target became Oklahoma's long-termers in Congress, because critics argued the longer they stayed in Washington,
the more they tend to get in the pattern and to accept the status quo. They don't come out after their 12th year and work quite as hard to make the changes that the idealist that was first elected had in mind.
Fair has drafted an amendment to the state constitution limiting U.S. representatives to 6 terms and senators to 2.
Term limits, flat and simple, take away the people's right to choose their own representative.
But political observers like Mike Williams believe a congressional term limit would be disastrous for rural states like Oklahoma that have so few congressmen and senators.
If seniority no longer counts, then states like New York, California, Texas, Florida that have the large numbers of congressmen will control the whole country.
What do the Oklahomans in Washington think? Republican Senator Don Nichols supports term limits, while his Democratic counterpart David Boren believes you should not limit the people's right to choose. Congressman Dave McCurdy has not seen the proposal and had no comment. The one element missing from the debate over state legislative limits was an opposition, and critics say if a battle emerges over congressional term limits, you may very well see the state's GOP and Democratic parties joining forces to defeat it. Doug Scheimel, News Team 4.
Governor-elect David Walters will hold a series of budget meetings with state agency heads over the next several weeks. Walters plans to meet personally with the heads of 26 agencies, including Corrections, the Department of Human Services, Common and Higher Education, and Commerce. Walters' transition staff will meet with nearly 50 other agencies. The meetings are to assist Walters in preparing the budget recommendations, which he will present to the legislature next February.
President Bush's trip to Mexico this week was highlighted by trade talks, and those trade agreements may be seen in the price of vegetables here in the United States. Oklahoma State University's Rob McClendon had this report today on OETA's morning program, Sunup.
President Bush's first official visit to Mexico may have looked like a party, but the real fireworks are over freeing up trade between our two countries. President Bush sees a free trade agreement with Mexico, giving American businesses increased access to a cheap labor pool.
This will give those people an opportunity to go to work. Now, they'll go to work at a lower wage than they get in this country, but their cost of living is lower also.
The average hourly wage in Mexico is $1.63, compared to over $14 an hour in this country. OSU international trade expert Dave Henneberry says such a disparity would tempt many businesses to move south of the border.
That would have an adverse effect on labor in the United States if our corporations moved too many jobs down there and then in turn re-exported those products up to the United States. It's really a shifting of the production base.
So while American companies may make bigger profits, American workers may be out of jobs. A USDA analyst says while most of the attention is focused on benefits Mexico will reap, any trade agreement is a two-way street.
The United States farm sector stands to gain from increased exports of fruits to Mexico, specifically apples, pears, and peaches. And this is due to lower production prospects in Mexico in future years and declining trade barriers.
Many hope an agreement will stem the tide of illegal aliens flowing into this country. But Henneberry warns Americans should be careful for what they wish for, because for years illegal aliens have played an integral part of putting food on our tables.
There is some evidence that many of them take jobs that Americans don't take anyway. And therefore, the question is, in what ways do they really displace U.S. labor? And how much U.S. labor is actually displaced by Mexican nationals in the United States?
And in other agricultural news today, the president did sign into law the 1990 Farm Bill.
Ross Dixon joins us with the weather. If you didn't bring your plants in last night, you'd better do it tonight.
I think it's going to be a little bit colder. No cloud cover to speak of and light winds. All this combines to make it a very cold night across the Sooner State, probably the coldest of the year so far. Looking at this morning's low, it's pretty nippy across a good portion of the state. The cold spot was 22 degrees. At Guyman to about 31 degrees down in southeastern Oklahoma around McAllister down towards Idabel. And that was a combination of clear skies and basically light northerly breezes that occurred across Oklahoma last night. 27 degrees around Hobart down towards Roosevelt, 30 degrees around the Altus area. Now during the afternoon we had some middle and high cloudiness that floated through, and winds were generally from the north about 8 to 18 miles per hour. Managed to climb up a bit warmer than we thought yesterday, 54 degrees, the hot spot down at McAllister. The rest of the state, we're generally in the 50 statewide, and a few upper 40s, possibly in extreme eastern Oklahoma, where they got pretty good rainfall yesterday. Now, no precipitation in the state during the past 12 to 18-hour period. It looks like we're going to be dry, I think, through the weekend. Maybe the next best chance for any rain across Oklahoma will be next Monday or Tuesday as the next system moves towards Oklahoma. But it looks like it's going to be a cold night tonight. We'll start warming up tomorrow and continue that warming trend, I think, through Sunday. If we take a look at the national weather scene, that storm system just scooted to the east of Oklahoma, left a lot of severe weather activity during the past 18-hour period behind this system as it pushed forward. Heavy thunderstorms still continue from Florida Panhandle all the way up into portions of Virginia. Some heavy rain, some high winds, about 55 to 60 miles per hour, and the storm system will shoot towards the extreme eastern portion of Canada over the next 12-hour period. Over the central part of the country, high pressure dominates. Highs are generally in the 20s over the Great Lakes area, southward through Wisconsin. We also have 70s over the desert southwest, and basically sunshine almost from the Mississippi River Valley to the Pacific coast. For tomorrow, what we anticipate seeing will be the system off the coast, a few thunderstorms remaining over portions of Florida. It'll be rainy over the northern portions of the Atlantic coastal areas, some snow inland, but most of the heavy weather activity will be out to sea. High pressure will begin to shift eastward. We'll see warming over the plain states with highs in the 40s. Back in the northern plains, the 50s across Oklahoma and the 60s down in Texas. Out west, a new storm system, which is going to try to make it into Oklahoma, I think, by Monday. It's not very strong. Will bring more rain to Washington and Oregon, and they don't need any rain up in Seattle. And they're going another high wind and heavy rain conditions tonight. We are looking for warming temperatures across about the southern part of the country as the jet stream will move back up to north towards Canada. Now, our forecast for Oklahoma, well, clear and cold tonight. Very simple forecast. Lows will be in the 20s statewide. Tomorrow, we're looking for sunny skies, a bit warmer. Highs 54 degrees in the east to 63 degrees in the Panhandle. Then for Friday, it's going to be another sunny and warmer day with highs 60 statewide. The extended forecast, well, the weekend should be mild with highs generally in the 60s on Saturday. And then on Sunday, let's go for the 60s for the most part. There may be some increasing cloud cover, we'll notice, but overall should be a nice day. On Monday, another mild day, 60s and 70s with increasing southerly winds ahead of the next frontal system. So overall, the weekend looks great. We'll start getting a little bit warmer again.
Great.
Yeah, sounds fine.
Sounds great. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Oklahoma City firefighters battled a fire that spewed toxic smoke into the air today. City firefighters answered the call to a 4-alarm fire just after midnight. Mike Gotro of KOED TV has the story.
The Cone Solvent building at North Blackwelder in Maine was literally filled with balls of flame early this morning. The 4-alarm blaze was especially dangerous for 2 reasons: intense heat that brought walls down, and toxic black smoke that rose from burning chemicals stored in the building. Fire even got so intense at one point that firefighters had to back off.
We had flames impinging on that tanker when the wall came down. We had to set up unmanned protector lines there and just pour a lot of water on the thing to keep it from blowing.
All total, it took more than 2 hours for 20 trucks and 60 firefighters to bring the flames down.
Oklahoma City firefighters were then called to a 3-alarm fire at an inn on South MacArthur. One firefighter there suffered minor injuries.
In world news, 2 former Joint Chiefs of Staff have urged the Bush administration to be patient in the Persian Gulf. Admiral William Crowe and General David Jones told the Senate Armed Services Committee the U.S. must exhaust all peaceful means of ending the crisis before resorting to force. Meantime, the administration is trying to round up more votes for a UN resolution authorizing force against Iraq. Cuba says it will vote against the resolution. So tonight, Secretary of State Baker will talk to Cuba's foreign minister. Baker hopes to sway the Cubans before tomorrow's vote. Britain's new prime minister wants to build a country that is confident. John Major moved into 10 Downing Street today. Margaret Thatcher says she's thrilled and delighted Major was chosen to replace her. Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan says the economy has taken a meaningful downturn, but he doesn't call it a recession. Revised figures show the gross national product for the 3rd quarter grew at a slower rate than first thought. Help is on the way for America's farmers. President Bush has signed a farm bill that will freeze subsidy rates and reduce the number of acres eligible for subsidies over the next 5 years. And a federal judge in Miami has lifted the ban that prevented cable news network from airing a tape of Manuel Noriega talking to his attorneys. The judge says only one of the tapes has Noriega talking to his defense team, and it has already been broadcast.
Wall Street has turned mixed near the close as rally pressures evaporate. Now, the Dow Jones Industrials were down today 7 points. It closed at 2536.38. Trading was moderate, 140 million shares. The U.S. dollar strengthened in European trading today. Gold prices also rose. In London, gold closed at $385.75. That was up $1 an ounce. Zurich gold was at $384.50, up 50 cents. New York gold was at $385.20, unchanged. And New York silver today was $4.12 an ounce, up 2 pennies. A late rally boosted oil prices and left analysts struggling to find a reason for the sudden increase. West Texas Intermediate gained 42 cents a barrel to close at $33.28. That is the Oklahoma News Report this evening on OETA.
Be sure and tune in tomorrow morning at 7 for farm news and weather on Sunup.
Thanks for being with us tonight. Good night.
Good night.